number 3, Matt McMurray from Compass Racing, and the Lamborghini factory driver Giacomo Altoe paired this weekend with Martin Fuentes starts 7th and 8th. Ryan Dial and Corey Lewis rounding out the top 10 in 9th and 10th. Then back to Madison Snow and Drew Stavely in positions 11 and 12. John McGrew and J.C. Sada starting 13th and 14th. Vesko Kozarov for Reardon Racing at the back of the field after a front weekend, quite frankly, for that team. And problems early for SRO Motorsports. That is that Lamborghini. Madison Snow coming to the pit lane here early. We'll dispatch Amanda to check out what might be going wrong with that car. But as we do so, we await the green flag from Todd Hansing in the flag stand. Dakota Dickerson accelerates away, but Jan Halen tucks into the slipstream. And do not forget about that BMW. It's rapid in a straight line.
Yeah, Robbie Foley, they're laid back a little bit trying to get the run, but didn't time it quite right. Now he's looking at the inside of Jan Halen. That door may be open as they go side by side. The leaders there through turn 1.
Looked like there might have been a little bit of contact between the Acura and the Porsche, weaving for position. Philip Ellis on the attack, drops a wheel and somehow saves it. He was pointed the wrong way in turn number 3, and the field stacks up behind that Mercedes.
What a save that was, right in front of Michael Cooper and our championship leader, Jordan Pepper. That was an amazing move there by the Swiss driver. He dropped the wheels, looked for a way inside there of Robbie Foley into turn 3. Didn't quite make it stick. There may have been some contact. There's bodywork rubbing on one of those cars possibly.
Side by side they go through turn number 5 for the first time. Michael Cooper in that purple Mercedes trying to fend off the challenge. That's K-Pax Racing and Jordan Pepper. Race winners yesterday, but mired back in traffic here. And contact between the two. Around goes Cooper. I think the field has managed to miss him. But that's a real shame for that car, which started 5th here for race 2 of the weekend.
Yeah, Pepper got the run, exiting turn 5, got to the inside of apex of turn 6, but with the grip in these Pirelli P0s, Michael Cooper felt confident running that outside rim there, but just not enough room. Got the bump, got him turned around.
That was costly for the championship leaders as Pepper dropped several spots. The sister car among those that got around, that's the green Lamborghini at the back of the shot. Corey Lewis, the American, gets the start here in race 2 of the weekend. Field coming now through the carousel for the first time, and now through the treacherous kink, one of the most fearsome corners in North American racing.
With Drew Stavely there aboard the Aston Martin. But boy, oh boy, our championship leader, Jordan Pepper, had work cut out for him at the start of this race. He's got even more now as you see him regrouping. Is there any damage to that Lamborghini Huracan early?
That quickly becomes the question, doesn't it, as he tries to find his way around Vesko Kozarov, the Reardon Racing car. Let's take a look at the replay, Cal.
See Jordan there, he's down at the apex. Cooper decides to run the outside rim there, and just a little bobble there. You can see Jordan have to correct the race car mid-corner. Just sent him a little bit wide and enough to get into the side of Michael Cooper.
That's definitely out of character for Jordan Pepper. Not a driver we're used to seeing making any errors whatsoever, but looks like everyone was able to recover and at least keep on the racetrack. Dickerson continues to lead by 0.3 of a second over Jan Halen. And right behind, Robbie Foley lying in wait. He's the best placed of the Pro Class cars. Meanwhile, here comes Ryan Dial on the attack.
Yeah, nice move there on Corey Lewis, who gets to the inside of that number 6 Lamborghini Huracan. Right behind them, there's Matt McMurray, who's coming off a second-place finishing class here yesterday for Compass Racing.
He and Michael DeMeo have proven to be a really good combination. They won a race at VIR, the second place yesterday, so some momentum behind that pairing. Coming into this race here, Dickerson has been able to leg out a bit of a gap, not a big one, but it's noteworthy when he's got a veteran like Jan Halen right behind him. And Robbie Foley showing the strength of that BMW right there in the tire tracks, looking for a way past the Porsche.
Yeah, Dickerson looking really comfortable here up front. He's not making any mistakes. The car is not sliding at all. We've got 5 different manufacturers represented in the top 5 spots on this field right now. Just amazing.
Word from Amanda in the pits on the SRO car. Their data showed that they thought a tire, the left front, in fact, was losing air pressure, so they called Madison Snow to the pit lane to make that change and avert potential disaster. This is a long race, 90 minutes, and a full course yellow could reset things, so they look to try and keep in contention, stay on the lead lap, and hope for a safety car intervention that might bring that Lamborghini back to the pack.
Yeah, you could see Madison weaving around as the grid formed up to climb the hill there. I thought he was just trying to generate tire temperature. You're not allowed to do that late in the lap, but either way, he was feeling something out. Crew probably radioed to him, listen, check to see if the car feels okay, and he suddenly dived for the pit lane.
Ryan Dial made that move on Corey Lewis for third. make that for 6th overall. We drop back to the leader in the AM class here. 2 AM class cars on the grid this weekend for the first time. That's great to see. This is John DeGroot driving for TR3 Racing as they expand to his 2nd entry here this weekend.
Yeah, they got this car and the 9 car currently driven by Giacomo Altoe, who's having a good run here, running in the top 5. He's sharing that 2nd car from TR3 with Martin Fuentes, a multiple champion here in SRO World Challenge competition over the years. And here we see Jordan Pepper trying to cut his way through this field, but it's not easy for him.
Now we're seeing he's still stuck behind the Reardon car, and here comes Drew Stavely, making that Aston Martin look about as racy as it has all season long. They've been building up to this second half of the year, looking to hit their stride. Ian Lacey Racing with the white Aston Martin stalking down the K-Pax Racing Lamborghini that is the championship leader, but appears to be in strife.
That was close there. He went to the right-hand side and a flick back to the left. Here we see this battle continuing here between Corey Lewis and Matt McMurray.
Oh, little touch there. 2 touches make it 3 as they crest the hill in turn 6. Somehow they come out on the other side, but the fight's not done yet. McMurray fighting back to the outside of the Lamborghini, ultimately has to relent, at least temporarily, but the fight continues through hurry downs.
Yeah, I think that's going to fire up Matt McMurray a little bit, because Corey was definitely leaning on him a little bit on that climb up to turn 6. Really don't want to give him the lead that he needed.
Dial has sprinted away from this battle after making the pass on Lewis on the previous lap. That's 6th overall. We're watching 7th and 8th overall. A couple of cars that are not in the same class, but it's worth remembering, unlike other sports car racing series, we're talking about multiple classes, but in the same specification of GT3 machinery. No difference between the GT3 car in the AM class and the GT3 car in the Pro class.
And look at this, you now got Michael Cooper right on the tail of the driver who kind of forced him off the road a little bit. Sure, there's not going to be any love lost here between these two right now.
No, but Michael's a cool customer. He doesn't get rattled too easily. He just wants to find his way back past that black Lamborghini. Not a bad recovery, all things considered. When you think he was pointing the wrong way for quite a while there on the racetrack.
Exactly, and that really just adds to the display the fact that Jordan Pepper is struggling here for speed this afternoon aboard that Lamborghini Huracan number 3, our championship leader.
As we watch this fight further back in the field, no change at the front. Here comes Drew Stavely to the outside of Vesko Kozarov. Give him another position. Aston Martin flexing the muscle down the front stretch.
Boy, he's got the bit between his teeth here today. He's really got a lot of speed in that Ian Lacey run. Aston Martin advantage cutting through the field right now.
And now it's the AM class leader that lies ahead of him. That's John McGrew driving, and he's got good pace. We saw that yesterday despite some problems that car encountered. And there is some good speed in that Lamborghini, so it's not going to be easy just because it's a lower class for Stavely to clear the traffic.
No, super impressive run here by John to hold that track position right now. Here we see this battle continuing here. This is for 7th and 8th position overall, 6th and 7th in the class between Matt McMurray and Corey Lewis.
Keep an eye on that white Lamborghini right here. Giacomo Altoe 2 laps ago set the race's fastest lap, a 2:08.3. He was about a half a second off of that pace the last time by, but he's starting to reel in the top 4. Altoe and Martin Fuentes, mentioned it earlier, pairing up here this weekend after Fuentes has effectively sat out the season to this point, concentrating on Super Trofeo competition, but stepping into the seat previously occupied by Ziad Gondor. We expect him to close out the season as well for TR3 Racing. This should be a very good pairing. Here is Dakota Dickerson, though, leading the field of GT3 cars, has a lead of nearly 3/4 of a second over Jan Halen. That's the Wright Motorsports Porsche giving chase right behind. And then Robbie Foley biding his time in the Turner BMW right behind. Top 3 running line to stern at America's National Park of Speed. Race 2 of the weekend at Road America. The gap at the front has grown to 7/10, nearly 8/10 of a second. How impressive, Calvin, has Dakota Dickerson been?
Yeah, he's been super impressive. I mean, just a monster lap in qualifying, as he said, just really at home behind the wheel of this Acura NSX. And hats off to Racer's Edge for giving him such a strong car as well. They've really made this transition up to GT3 machinery over the last 3 years just seamlessly. They've got great engineering on that team. Car is really quick, and this NSX Driver Academy that they put together has really showcased the talent that is around in our paddocks, and Taylor and Dakota are certainly displaying that here this weekend.
Stavely did make the pass on John McGrew on that last lap. That moves him up to 9th in the overall running order. We also need to report that Michael Cooper has come to pit lane in that Mercedes that was part of the coming together with Jordan Pepper just a few laps ago. It looked like he was back on the pace, but something evidently amiss with the car that he shares with Aaron Vogel.
Hearing a report that Pepper may have a time hold during his pit stop, possibly for that avoidable contact, the demon that was Jordan's issue in terms of rubbing there and turning Michael, I think.
Well, we talked about it, how this was likely to be a challenging weekend or race, I should say, for K-Pax. They salvaged something yesterday despite not having the ultimate pace that we've seen out of them throughout the course of the season. But with the qualifying situation the way that it was here for race 2, they had their work cut out for them. It needed to be about a picture-perfect race for them to get back up on the podium, and doesn't look like that's really in the cards based on the way things have started for the championship leaders.
No, and looking at that problem for Michael Cooper, looks like it's emanating from the right front corner. It's the opposite side of the car. He already had that contact with Jordan Pepper, so maybe when he went off the road, just kind of hit one of those curbs the wrong way around. But either way, it looks like their day may be done. Looking at the language from the mechanic there who looked underneath the corner. That
was the telltale sign, wasn't it? You saw the mechanic gesturing, and it's typically not an indication that repairs are going to be enacted.
And looking at these lap times right now, Jan Halen is gradually sneaking up on our leader here. Took a couple of tenths out of that lap on Dakota Dickerson. Foley dropping back by a similar margin, a couple of tenths off the leader's pace. So be all about tire degradation and management at this stage of the game.
Ryan Dial had a nice start to this race, jumped up to the 6th spot overall, runs 4th in Pro-Am. He'll be turning that car over to team owner for DXDT Racing, David Askew. And behind him, this battle rages on. Corey Lewis fighting a rear guard action, trying to keep Matt McMurray behind him. Lamborghini versus Acura in the midpoint of this field as they roar under the Sargento Bridge. Dakota Dickerson continues to lead by a half a second over Jan Halen. This is the scrap back a little bit further in the field. 7th and 8th in the overall running order. 3rd place in Pro, Corey Lewis in the green Lamborghini, being chased by 5th place in Pro-Am, Matt McMurray.
Yeah, Matt is certainly fired up. I don't think he is really comfortable with the amount of room that Corey Lewis gave him a few laps ago, so that's going to keep the bit between his teeth to try and chase him down. But looks like Drew Stavely is gradually inching up on these, so they've really found the sweet spot, seems today, with this handling of that Aston Martin.
Definitely looking as strong as he and that team have all season long. That'll bring a big smile to his face, to Ian Lacey's face, and Frank Gannett, the co-driver, as well. Did you see some smoke off the back of that BMW just there, Calvin?
Yeah, I think I did, so I'll have to take a look at that. I mean, this M6 is a bit vulnerable in terms of the gearbox on this race car. Didn't see it that time exiting Canada corner.
Let's hope it was just dust on the track, perhaps, that we saw kicked up and not a sign of something more sinister.
Exciting times for BMW. They got the new GT3 machine here this weekend on display, the new M4. Been a lot of buzz about it, and a lot of commitment from teams like Turner Motorsports moving forward. So exciting times for GT3 racing in general, globally, and also here for BMW.
We saw Michael Cooper bring his DXDT Racing Mercedes to the pit lane a few moments ago, and Amanda Busick has an update.
Standing by with Aaron Vogel, the teammate of Michael Cooper. The 19 Mercedes is out of the race today, but as we have been talking during our show, is that we think about the championship, we think about the back half of this season. As you look forward to Watkins Glen, how do you prepare for that, Aaron?
Well, you know, the Mercedes and DXDT just gave us a really great car this weekend. We knew we had the pace here to be super competitive again, and it's really unfortunate, but sometimes in racing this happens. So I think we're just all gonna, you know, get our heads together and make sure we keep this good car running and take it to Watkins with us, and, you know, hopefully build some more momentum for the second half of the season.
We'll see you down the road.
Thanks.
Very tough break there. Difficult luck for the Race 1 winners in Pro-Am back at VIR the last time out. Day ends early for Michael Cooper and Aaron Vogel.
Yeah, and that's a shame. I believe some of these teams, K-Pax and I think DXDT, are heading off to Watkins Glen this week for a couple of days of testing, so that'll give them a chance to get back behind the wheel and not have to wait 3 weeks to get back into that racing mode. So it's always good to get back in a race car after a frustrating day.
The gap between these two seems to have stabilized. It's hovering between 7 and 8 tenths of a second pretty regularly. That's Dickerson to Hagler. Then it's Robbie Foley running a somewhat distant third, but the good news for him is he's the leader in the pro class right now. And unlike in previous years where sometimes we've seen it be an overall classification for the all-pro lineups and where you finish in the overall running order is how you score points, that's not the case this year with this pro class. So as they run right now, Foley and Dinan would be on track to score first place points within their class despite being third on the road behind 2 Pro-Am cars.
Yeah, and I saw there that line that Robbie Foley takes down through Kettle Bottoms on the approach to turn 12. He sort of like stays to the left a little bit further. I think there's some oil dry down there, so that may have been the smoke that we observed a lap or so ago, Ryan. Hopefully that is the case and the car is 100% fine. But yes, I think Michael Dinan's got good pace here. He tested here as well with Robbie a couple of weeks ago, and they feel the car is good, and Michael was very much on form. So did a great job yesterday in the opening stint, and I think when Robbie Foley does pit and turn it over, he could be one of the faster drivers on this field.
Over the last several laps, Jan Hegeland's been chipping away or at least holding steady in that gap, but it did change somewhat this last time by. Dakota Dickerson now leads by 8.6 seconds. He was marginally quicker, about a tenth and a half faster than Hegeland the last time around, and that's allowed him to pull out this gap. Such an experienced team. Racers Edge Motorsports made the jump up to GT3 racing after several years campaigning GT4 cars, but they've got a rich history going back many, many years, and John Meraki has got a sharp crew assembled around them and around this team. Down to a single car operation this year after running 2 a year ago, but they know how to get the job done.
They really do, and it's a great point. I mean, they obviously competed here in GT4 and GTS competition for a while, but they do have GT experience in North America, and I think that's what helped them make this transition up to these cars. But great partnership with Acura. I love the Academy program that they're still doing this year with a new batch of drivers. You got Ricky Taylor, Ryan Eversley, HPD factory drivers here, helping out, coaching, mentoring Dakota and Taylor this weekend. So there she stands, staying cool alongside John Meraki. Big smiles right now. Dakota's doing a fine job.
Taylor will take over when the mandatory pit stop window comes around, and it is a full-service pit stop in Fanatec GT World Challenge America. Driver change, refuel, and 4 fresh Pirelli P0s. So these drivers, unlike in Pirelli GT4 America, for instance, don't need to worry about preserving the tires for their co-driver, just the race car itself.
Yeah, it's management right now, but certainly when you get to those last 5 minutes or so, you just got to use them up and have them hanging on by a thread, literally, if you need to, when you come in for that pit stop. And that pit stop window opens when you see 50 minutes on the clock at the top of the screen there. So 50 minutes to go in the race, and then you have to have that pit stop at least be on pit lane by the time that clock hits 40 to go.
Love this data in real time, looking at the speed in kilometers per hour for the race leader, Dakota Dickerson. Great new insights brought to you by the friends at AWS. As Dakota Dickerson continues to pace the field, he leads Jan Hegeland by just over 8 tenths of a second.
Today's coverage is brought to you in partnership with Fanatic, AWS, and CrowdStrike.
It was a frantic start to this race, Calvin, but it has settled down somewhat. Now we can lean back a bit and take stock of where things stand. I think the car to keep an eye on, though, is the one running 5th at the moment with Giacomo Altoe at the wheel. Martin Fuentes, a very fast driver, about to take over when the pit stop happens. And I think he's fired up to resume his career in SRO America after having so many good seasons, championship-winning seasons. And talking to him earlier this weekend, he is so happy to be back in the paddock.
Yeah, he's a great personality. Great to see him back. He's won a handful of titles over the years. He's had success here at Road America just last year and, in fact, in 2019 as well. So he's found a great team here. He likes the Lamborghini for a long time. You know, ran Ferraris, of course, as did the TR3 team. But I think in Giacomo Altoe, he's got a great teammate with a lot of pace. young Italian Lamborghini factory driver. His family brought him up through racing ranks. They own a race circuit in Italy. His brother races. His father was a rally driver, so he's lived and breathed racing all of his life.
It's in the blood, no doubt about that. Watching Robbie Foley through turn 14, dropping the left side wheels off ever so slightly. Easy to do there in that corner. A couple of things to note, though. Vesko Kozarov just made an unscheduled pit stop in the Reardon Racing Lamborghini. That's him rejoining right there. That was a bit of a close call. Should also note that there was a change in position on the previous lap. Jordan Pepper finally did get that move made on Matt McMurray to move him up to 9th in the overall running order in the championship leading car.
Yeah, well, every point and every position is precious, and on a tough day, you just got to keep digging. And I'm sure Jordan didn't expect to be this deep in the pack. Struggled a little bit in qualifying, just didn't have the pace. The other car, the Corey Lewis car, had some braking issues in that qualifying session. That's why he was down in 10th position on the grid. But Jordan just said, quite honestly, we don't have the pace here this weekend.
That's what it comes down to sometimes. It's the BOP system coming and going. Horses for courses a little bit. We see sometimes it's stronger, sometimes it isn't, depending on where you end up driving. But right now it looks like it's very, very good news if you're running an Acura NSX GT3 Evo. Dakota Dickerson controlling the pace from out in front. Jan Haywen in hot pursuit. Robbie Foley about 4 seconds behind in the third spot. Philip Ellis as well. And right there trying to keep tabs on it, but Giacomo Altoe with the race's fastest lap so far, running there in the 5th spot as it stands. Just over 20 minutes gone in race 2 of the weekend in Elkhart Lake. Dakota Dickerson out in front, leading by 0.8 of a second over Jan Haywen as we near the mandatory pit stop window. Not quite there yet, but getting closer. And Calvin Fish, that's when this race will get a completely different complexion when we make the switch from the pros in the Pro-Am lineups to the amateur drivers, those with less experience.
Yeah, we do, and there'll be a bit more of a delta there between the various drivers jumping on board for this second stint, but there's also some very competitive drivers in that category as well in terms of the AM partners, so should still be a fascinating battle here to see through the checkered flag here this afternoon.
Here is Foley behind the wheel of this BMW. We've become so accustomed to seeing him in BMW machinery. It was a bit jarring last weekend when he was racing at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in a Porsche. Took some getting used to, but he and Michael Dinan have proven to be a really good pair, driver, coach, and co-driver. Making the jump from GT4 to GT3 here for this season after a remarkable run, especially for Dinan, running in a couple of GT4 championships in SRO America last year. Here is Altoe. The car behind him is the lapped Reardon Racing car that made that unscheduled pit stop, so don't need to worry about that as far as positions are concerned. But Altoe very quick indeed, and you can see sliding the rear of that car a little bit through the exit of turn number 6, wringing the neck of the Raging Bull.
Yeah, he really is, and really nice man. We had the chance to chat to him for quite a time at Circuit of the Americas when he was making his debut, and he uses sim to really learn the racetracks, but he's a quick study, and seems like these drivers of the current era, Ryan, just give them a few laps and they're up to speed, even on a racetrack as challenging as Road America is.
Drew Stavely starting to run down Corey Lewis. That's remarkable stuff. This is the first season in GT3 equipment for Drew and for this Ian Lacey Racing team. And by their own admission, the season did not start well. They really struggled at Sonoma, and it's been getting marginally better week in and week out. But this has to be so cathartic to come out here and on pure pace be running with the benchmark team in the series, at least to this point in the season, K-Pax Racing, and having the pace to match them.
Yeah, that's really cool. This will be a big shot in the arm for this whole group. I mean, they were pretty downbeat at the start of this year. They knew it was going to be a big step and a big challenge, but they thought they were going to be closer to the pace based on their past experience and success. So it's good to see them finally hitting their stride and start to find their groove a little bit.
Jordan Pepper on a comeback drive of his own had the contact with Michael Cooper that sent him off track as well. It sounds like he's been adjudged to have some fault in that. We understand there should be a penalty coming during the pit stop. basically a hold for some extra time that will waylay him further, but he has been able to recover, at least for now, up to the 9th spot in the overall running order, but running at the back of the pro class. He's got to get to his sister car, the green Lamborghini right there, if he wants to make any headway as far as point scoring scenarios are concerned.
Yeah, he does. So a lot of work cut out for them, and there's still a lot of rounds to go in this championship, so he knows it's not over. A lot of experience there. You got to keep digging. You just can't think, I can have a bad race or two. No, that's not the case. Those points get eaten into really quickly.
And to the AM class we go. John McGrew doing a very nice job running 10th overall, the leader in the AM class. JC Sada is giving chase. He's in the other AM car from AF Corsa running 12th, and his co-driver Conrad Grunwald had a heck of a day yesterday. Just a remarkable story. They're even on track, though, after the heavy crash they had in race 1. But as far as this team goes, McGrew and Bill Sweedler have a lot of experience running in Ferraris, but making the switch along with TR3 to Lamborghini. And here's Matt McMurray coming down the pit lane. And the hard right turn behind the wall.
Yeah, no, that's not within the pit stop window, so something unscheduled here. That's a shame. They've had a strong couple of weekends, including the win at VIR. Good run here yesterday, so that's a disappointment for that whole group. And
on what is one of the most difficult races to date for K-Pax Racing and what's been a brilliant season to this point, Andrea Caldarelli, one of the drivers, is standing by in pit lane with Amanda.
Now over here watching the performance of his teammate Jordan Pepper, I think Andrea knows the challenge that he has ahead of himself. It's roughly a second or so off of the pace of Dakota Dickerson. What has to happen during this driver change where you guys can make up a little bit of that time?
Miracle? Not much really. It's we were struggling yesterday, we're struggling today. We have also 15-second penalty, I guess, from the contact, which again, it's another decision that I don't know where it comes from, but we'll see. It's going to be very difficult, but we go out there and we try to do maybe, wish for a safety car or something like that.
We've been covering that the Lamborghinis are down.
Sorry?
We've been covering that the Lamborghinis are down on power this weekend. Why do you feel that?
No, I think the Lambo is fine. We saw that there is another team that with the Lambo they set the fastest lap of the race. So we're just struggling, both cars. So I don't know. We just have to figure it out before next race.
A very honest assessment from Andrea Caldarelli, co-championship leader, along with Jordan Pepper in this car, but running right now all the way back in 9th and 4th out of 4 in the pro class. Meanwhile, the sister car coming under assault from the Aston Martin. Calvin, curious to get your thoughts on what we heard from Andrea. He was not mincing any words, was he, when he said they needed a miracle to get back into this fight?
Well, you just can't turn the car around. It's not like throwing a new set of tyres at it, or even a tweak that you do to the setup, tyre pressure-wise or whatever is going to give you the pace they're looking for. Altoi's run a 2:08.3. Jordan Pepper's fastest lap of the race is a 2:10.1. That's in a different zip code, and Corey Lewis 2:10.8. So they're best part of 2 seconds off the pace here. So whatever they decided to throw at that race car today, they had the pole yesterday. They controlled the race. They would come under pressure at the end by Philip Ellis, certainly, but it seems like they've gone backwards a little bit in their decisions today.
Well, the silver lining of that story for them has to be, maybe we struggled this weekend, but you still get an overall win in race 1. On a weekend you're struggling as much as they feel like they are to come away with a victory. That's not half bad.
No, it isn't, and that's what that group is all about. So much experience in the cockpit, so much experience on the pit stand itself. So you get that track position, it's going to be tough to beat them, but when you're on the back foot, like Jordan Pepper is and Corey Lewis is, tough to make any headway. They just don't have the pace in the car to really make up that track position, so they're kind of stuck here right now. And as Caldarelli said, there's not going to be any miracles here today. It's just damage control at this stage. If they got a late race caution, maybe they can stack everyone up. If they manage their tires a little bit better, maybe make up some positions there. But otherwise, it's just a long day ahead.
This is heating up right here. Robbie Foley currently holds 3rd overall, but the lead in pro. And Philip Ellis has slowly but surely tracked him down. Windward Racing, the class winners at the 24 Hours of Daytona earlier this year. Going from strength to strength, that team just stronger and stronger year after year.
Yeah, really quick car they have right now with this Mercedes. Just seems to be a well-balanced car, suits most of the circuits that we run on. It never seems to be on the back foot and have a performance deficit. And Philip Ellis, really strong driver, and Russell Ward yesterday did a tremendous job. That fight that he had with Michael Dinan early was just tremendous. So team is on the rise, running on the global stage, running in DTM, won the Rolex 24-hour race earlier this season, so big things ahead for them.
Even in the present, as they continue to grow, they're showing their strength. Running right there in contention to take the race lead away. This again is the fight here between Corey Lewis and Drew Stavely, Pro and Pro-Am respectively. But Drew Stavely showing his quality here behind the wheel of this GT3 Aston Martin, giving it the best run it has had all season long. But looming in the background, Jordan Pepper starting to reel in that battle for 7th in the overall running order. Dakota Dickerson leads Jan Halen first from second by 1 second now. Robbie Foley sits third, but starting to come under pressure from Philip Ellis in the Windward Racing Mercedes. Giacomo Altoe only 2 seconds behind that pairing as the battles start to heat up, now within 10 minutes from entering the mandatory pit stop window.
You'd have to imagine these two leaders right now probably keep their current drivers behind the wheel a little bit longer, kind of deep into that pit stop window. So maybe 15 to 20 minutes for these two drivers that we're looking at right here, and for Robbie Foley and Philip Ellis for the same matter as well. So still a little bit of time to do on this opening stint. You've got to really manage these tires. It looks like the two front-running cars are doing that a little bit better than the BMW behind them, but still a lot of meat on the bone yet in this stint.
I would suggest, just due to the relative experience levels of the drivers involved, that the first car in the running order that would be likely to try to come in early and make some headway as a result would be Corey Lewis running in 7th. He'll be turning that car over to Lamborghini factory driver Giovanni Venturini.
Yeah, well, I think we've seen them do that earlier this season. That would absolutely be my call as well in terms of strategy. We have seen a yellow in the pit stop window earlier today with GT4 Sprint X competition. So if you could make that stop and then there's suddenly a yellow that kind of slows down the leaders that have stayed out on the racetrack, even for a few corners or half a lap, that can be the difference in terms of doing that undercut and getting those fresh Pirelli P0s on with Venturini behind the wheel.
Foley has dropped off the pace of the top two, but is still running solidly in podium contention, and then he'll turn this car over to Michael Dinan. Philip Ellis will turn his car over to Russell Ward, and we'll see what those two pros can do, albeit on the lesser end of the experience spectrum as far as the pro drivers in this field are concerned. That said, Calvin, we're reaching the point of the season where we're halfway through. These guys now have nearly over a half a season of GT3 racing under their belts, and maybe we should stop talking about them in those terms because they've earned that. They've been quick at various times all year.
Yeah, they really have, and I find this pro battle at the beginning of race 2 on these weekends great, but I think the AMs who finish off upon some stellar racing so far this year, so I think everyone's back in the groove. I mean, a lot of these teams and drivers have been racing globally. Philip Ellis has been busy. Robbie Foley just got back from Le Mans where he made his debut last weekend, as you mentioned. Surprised to see him behind the wheel of a Porsche for that one, but got his feet wet. Wasn't the best of weekends for him, but had a DNF in the race with some suspension failure aboard that Project 1 Porsche. But nonetheless, there's nothing like getting those initial laps at Le Mans for the future for a young driver like Robbie.
Oh, we talked about it a couple of times. What a great run Drew Stavely is giving this Ian Lacey Racing car, and the man who'll take it over is Frank Gannett, who's down in the pit lane with Amanda.
Ryan, I absolutely love watching drivers get ready for their turn in the car. Some drivers pace along, some are just stoically looking, kind of, you can see them prepping for the race in their mind. Well, Frank Gannett, he's just sitting over here cool as a cucumber. We just found out we're wearing the same race suit, so we're sharing a couple laps as well. But Frank, it's almost your time behind the wheel. When you watch this first half of this race, what can you take from Drew on your stint?
Just try to be fast. I mean, he out of the box, he's just been so fast, and we didn't get a chance to test or anything. So I just need to get in the car. He's putting a lot of pressure on me by passing all these people. But he went off, and so he's coming back on. He doesn't have radio communication, so we're going to try to signal him a little sooner. So just in case, we're going to shorten him up one lap. But I was teasing the guys yesterday when I came in. I said, everyone's cheering for me to do one more lap. So one of the guys came up and said, look like you're going to get that chance to do one more lap. I was like, oh, God, I don't know if I want to do that or not, but he's doing such a good job.
See you soon, Greg.
It's been a tremendous drive for Drew Stavely, Frank Dinan, getting geared up and ready to go. And you can see how much he's enjoying this, seeing that car run a little bit further up. But we do talk about this sometimes, the pressure cooker that the pros can create for their AM counterparts if they have a good first stint. That's what Frank's staring down, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely ramps up the stakes a little bit, but Frank's getting a lot of experience now, a lot of seat time, so he'll be more comfortable with these type of scenarios that he's been put into. But I'm sure he's enjoying this, seeing the team and the car excelling right now. Drew Stavely is about a lap faster in terms of the fastest lap here today over the guy that he's chasing, Corey Lewis, so we'll have to wait and see how this one plays out.
Yep, we sure will. Dakota Dickerson leading Jan Halen right now. 1 second is the gap at the front of the field. Robbie Foley, Philip Ellis, first and second respectively in pro, but third and fourth in the overall running order. Then we get to Giacomo Altoe, third in Pro-Am. It's been one of the fastest ones so far, but we keep our eyes here on Robbie Foley and Philip Ellis giving chase. BMW leading Mercedes around the racetrack.
Ellis is certainly keeping the heat on Robbie here late in the stint, about 5 minutes before they could hit pit lane, but we expect, unless Robbie's really struggling for tyres here, to maintain this stint a little bit deeper into the run. But again, as we said, Michael Dinan's had good pace here this weekend. Not quite up to Robbie's speed as you'd expect with his level of experience, but less than a second off, which is a pretty good delta between a pro and an AM.
That's what it takes, isn't it? To, especially when we're talking about a Pro-Am lineup, it's a little bit different with the All-Pros. But again, Dinan's development has been so accelerated to this point in the season. It's been remarkable to see how quickly he's come to terms with this GT3 car. And I think you have to give Robbie Foley a lot of credit for that. He's driver coach as well as co-driver.
Yeah, and they get along very well. They're good friends. They do a lot of stuff away from the racetrack together. So I think that just builds that chemistry and enables, Robbie to just understand Michael a little bit more. It's not all about just data and how quick you can drive a race car. It's looking at personality traits and just trying to get everyone dialed in.
Philip Ellis closing in, though, on the back of Robbie Foley, trying to hold down that position as best as he can in the Turner Motorsport BMW. That is the fight for third overall and the Pro Class lead.
Today's coverage is brought to you in partnership with Pirelli, Rebellion, and Total.
Dakota Dickerson leading the way and building a gap, Calvin, up to 2.3 seconds now over Jan Halen, withstanding the pressure early in the stint and then showing his true ability to extend the gap on one of the GT World's veteran drivers and fastest drivers, Jan Halen.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Jan had a slip on that previous lap or whether there was that traffic that we're just seeing there with the Zalus Lamborghini or not came into play, but he lost 1.5 seconds to the gap to the leader right now, and that has really taken the pressure off Dakota Dickerson. He can just focus now on these remaining laps in his stint and just really try and use those tires up and create as big a gap and cushion as he can for his teammate.
And we've talked about the brain trust, John Meraki and company there at Racer's Edge, but they get a lot of help from a couple of the brothers, Jim and Nick Patton. Jim is the engineer. Nick is the lead mechanic on that car, and between the two of them, they've got nearly 3 decades worth of experience and putting it all to good use, helping to bring a couple of young drivers up to speed with Dickerson and Hagler, and then throw in Jacob Abel as well, who's been quick when he's been given an opportunity in that car.
Yeah, certainly. Some really good young talent, and they're enjoying that experience. They love having mentors like Ricky Taylor, current prototype leading champion here, defending prototype champion for last year, in fact, as well, for Penske Racing, on board here. He knows this racetrack so well and just can really convey a lot of the experiences that he's had over the years, along with Ryan Eversley, another HPD driver, has so much GT3 experience to convey to them as well.
Closing in on the pit window opening. It should be the next time around for these leaders, yes?
Certainly should be, but again, we expect the leaders to stay out there, try and extend this stint a little bit longer before they turn it over to their AM partners.
That is true. So perhaps that opens up a chance for someone a bit further down. This might be, depending on the timing. I don't think K-Pax is, are they that far back where they could take advantage of this? It's worth noting, unlike in previous years, it's not a case where the leader has to be the first one to see pit lane. So we'll keep an eye on that situation as we go back to the front of the field. Dakota Dickerson flying around this 4-mile circuit for Racers Edge Motorsports and extending his lead. The gap has grown from first to second, 2.2 seconds. Now is the difference, and Taylor Hagler, who teamed up with Dakota to pick up not only a class win, but an overall podium in race 1 of the weekend yesterday. She's going to be thrown into that pressure cooker next when the pit stop takes place in the window count just seconds from opening up.
Yes, and she's very much up to the task as well. She seems to be able to deal with pressure very well. She had her fourth podium of the year. In fact, she had won a VIR as well, but third with Dakota here yesterday. So I think she's geared up and ready to go. A lot of confidence right now. She leads a touring car championship in North America at the current time, doing a dual program this year. So looking at the lap times, though, for our leaders, Dickerson and Halen, almost identical, just 700ths of a second separating them on the last tour around. So that's that lap before where Halen lost that second and a half, so that's been the big delta right now at this stage of the game. But a lot of pressure now from Ellis on Robbie Foley.
Interesting how they decide to play this too. If they've got confidence in Russell Ward, and they very well might, he certainly earned it, they could try and pit him out of this position and hopefully get some clean track, maybe use that to leapfrog the BMW.
Well, the key is they're going to have some software which should indicate where they're going to come out. Look down the inside. That's a late move there by Philip Ellis. That typically will not work. You're typically going to have contact as Foley dives for pit lane. Exactly what you talked about, Ryan, in terms of really relying on the speed and the pace of Michael Dinan here, getting some fresh Pirelli P0s on there, doing the undercut, getting that fresh set of tires on early, and then it's hammer time for Michael Dinan.
So it's actually the opposite of what I thought might happen, with Turner making that call instead of Windward, and what a vote of confidence that is for Dinan, because the only way this strategy works is if he is on it from the word go.
Well, the key is the tire warmers. In the past, you've got to gradually get those tires up to temperature, even though it's a pretty warm day. So he should be able to get on it and start leaning on that car within 2 or 3 corners here, particularly by the time you get to the carousel and halfway through this lap. The pace and the speed should be in those tires. He has to take advantage of that for this strategy to work.
Here comes the Turner BMW sliding to a halt, and Michael Dinan, the winningest driver in SRO America 1 year ago, all in GT4 competition, but 17 wins across Sprint and Sprint X, taking over the controls of this BMW M6 from his more experienced teammate Robbie Foley, who's helping to get him belted in.
Yeah, and they need a smoother pit stop than yesterday. They lost time in the pit stop. The car didn't come off the jacks. The wheels were spinning, so slow pit stop, and they had a drive-through penalty for that. So they just need a good clean one right now and let Michael do his job.
Now, Turner's a veteran operation. You don't expect to see them make the same mistake twice. Just saw Corey Lewis duck in. Here comes the number 6 car, K-Pax Racing. They've been renowned for their quick pit work ever since this full-service pit stop entered into the regulations a few seasons ago.
Yeah, very much so. We expected this one to happen because pretty evenly matched are Corey Lewis and Venturini. Not a great pit stop for Turner Motorsports. 129.5 and 126 is the minimum. 86 seconds, so they lost a bit of time there.
They did. We'll have to keep an eye on that, and we'll have to see what kind of outlap Michael Dinan could put in. Meanwhile, the top 2 stay out on track. Dakota Dickerson continuing to extend that advantage. A remarkable opening stint for the GT3 neophyte. Hasn't been in this race car since, at least in race conditions, since the season.
Great pit stop for Winwood Racing either. They kind of pretty much identical to the 96 here, but now it's all about Dinan's going to be very much in a rhythm. He's got to go on the attack early here before Russell Ward gets into his rhythm. So the in-lap for Philip Ellis was slightly quicker than Michael Dinan's outlap because their pit stops were almost identical.
In years past, you might say, well, we're going to see cold tires on that Mercedes. But again, with tire warmers in play, that's really not part of the storyline here. He should be able to be on it pretty much right away. There's not a huge variation from leaving the pits right after a pit stop to a car that's already done a lap on track. We'll see what Dinan can do, though, in that rapid BMW as K-Pax sends out the sister car.
Yeah, and remember, he had to serve that 15-second hold there, so Calderelli jumped in, and even though the service was well done, it's going to be a very slow pit stop for those guys. Yeah, there it is, but right on the money, so you add 15 seconds to that stop, that would be 141. They did a 141.8, so even if you got a penalty, you still need to execute it close to that margin.
This is the fight here, and it looks like Windward able to make the jump, at least for now. See what Dinan can do. Can he retaliate behind that wheel of the BMW M6 through the kink? What a thrilling corner that must be in a high downforce car like a GT3 machine.
Yeah, it really is. It's pretty edgy, but they do have a ton of downforce. So as you get a bit later into the stint, a little bit of tire degradation, it's not quite as easy. But I know Russell Ward got up on the wheel. We spoke to him yesterday, and he really felt that by letting Michael Dinan pass early in the race yesterday, that really cost them the opportunity to grab that win. So he knows how important this outlap is in getting on with the program, because they can potentially still win this race overall here today.
See what kind of pace they have over the long run. Meanwhile, we're getting towards the end of this pit window. NSX, Porsche, the top two, and we're about to see two more veteran teams go to work in the pits before too much longer. Racer's Edge right there, White Motorsports right behind.
They can go one more lap, but it's pretty edgy. If you have a spin or any kind of delay on that in lap, that would cost you. You'd be suffering another drive-through penalty, so see how far they want to push it. He's going to stay out. I like the strategy. They're being very aggressive here by Racer's Edge.
Well, that certainly helps them in the fight for the overall, keeping their fastest drivers in these cars. And then we'll see what Hagler and Pordat can do. I think that could be a fascinating duel. Neither have a ton of experience. Fred's got the edge in that respect, but Taylor was very, very strong yesterday. I expect more of the same from her and that team.
Yeah, I think so too. And then I think they've got to look in their rearview mirror and look for Russell Ward potentially coming up on them too. So I still think the 33 car could be the car to beat here this afternoon.
Might very well be right. They are the only team, Windward Racing I'm speaking about, to have won a race overall that is not K-Pax Racing. They had that big breakthrough win at VIR, Calvin, and that seems to have galvanized the team. It's proof of concept. They're doing everything right, going up against one of the established championship teams of the series.
Yeah, made that move to the new Evo Mercedes earlier this year, so we're really gone from strength to strength. They started to understand that, and we talked about it yesterday, Ryan, in terms of they got so many programs going on. All of that data and all of those notebooks just get expanded by running this car essentially in the same spec with the GT3 formula globally, and that just really helps their cause.
Love this live data.
Whew.
Yeah.
Touching the grass there. You don't want to be getting in there in case you pick up a little bit of grip. So this will be his in lap. He's pushing for all it's worth, and Jan Herring just trying to close that gap if he can.
We often talk about the importance of in and out laps. Why do they make such a difference from a strategy point of view?
Well, I think it goes back to Michael Schumacher really set the trend when he's running for Ferrari with Ross Brawn on the horn, on the radio, saying this is the hammer time. You got 10 laps to your pit stop, Michael. Make them qualifying laps, and that's what it's all about. In the past, people are just careful. Get into the pit lane. Don't make a mistake. Now it's you got to be on edge. You got to be pushing, using this car up, particularly as you're going to get a fresh set of Pirelli P0s for your teammate. Use every ounce of rubber you got left here in the last 5 laps or so. Just an amazing stint from our pole setter, Dakota Dickerson, to hold this lead for the best part of 50 minutes.
And they'll come in with just 26 seconds to spare. The thing to remember is you don't have to have your pit work completed before the window opens. You just have to be in the pit lane. These two have done that. The strategy played to perfection. Now the pit crews get to strut their stuff. They'll make the difference here over the next 2 minutes.
Very rarely that you see that the lead of the race has given them essentially a one-lap advantage in staying out and still beating that time clock, Ryan. So by having the pace, being out front, and that has really delivered them this opportunity to stretch the margin over the rest of the field.
So now it comes down in these two Pro-Am cars, not just fighting for the top 2 spots overall, but the top 2 positions in Pro-Am, crucial for their championships. Taylor Hagler, Fred Pordat. They'll fight it out the rest of the way. Dakota Dickerson from pole has dominated this race, and Hagler's going to have to finish it off. Fred Portad, though, he's got other ideas.
Yeah, he's very much not intimidated by these situations, these pressure cooker situations we've described. And he's not afraid to get his elbows out. He doesn't care who he's up against. It could be another pro, a Lamborghini factory pilot like Caldarelli. He's going to give him an equally hard time. A little bit tight there, getting this wheel into that right rear corner. Getting all done. How close are they to that minimum stop? Looks like they're still waiting, so that's the good news. If they see that tire go on and release him, that means they're a little bit behind, but should be a good one if they get it right on the data. They beat their 20 car out. Fred Portad waiting. See how close they cut it. 129.6, so they left a bit of time on the table there. They could have cut it a lot closer, both squads, in fact.
And that's going to bring this car into the picture.
Big
now,
time.
How quickly can the two less experienced drivers, Hagler and Portad, get up to speed, even with the tires coming out of the tire ovens? Here comes Russell Ward with a full head of steam, running third overall, and he's got an overall win in the back of his mind.
I'd have to say they were not well executed pit stops by any of our leaders here. In fact, the top four had pretty poor in terms of getting close to that delta.
Still a whole lot to be decided here in the final 38 minutes of this race. Race number 2 of the weekend in Road America, very much up for grabs. Taylor Hagler holds the overall lead. Here we go. Racer's Edge Acura making the way through Hurry Downs. Fred Portad behind the wheel of the Wright Motorsports Porsche. Been really impressed with this first half a lap here from Taylor Hagler, Cal. She's not been waiting around at all.
No, immediately into the groove. Confident young lady. And that confidence is building week by week. With the more experience she gets, more results she gets. So she's going to feel comfortable here. She should have the pace on Fred here, I believe, and I think the real key is the team keeping her informed as to where that number 33 of Russell Ward is.
This is mixed class racing right here. The AM entry from TR3, that Lamborghini leading. The Giovanni Venturini-driven K-Pax Racing Lamborghini, the green one at the back of the screen. Now it's Bill Sweetler behind the wheel of the AM class leader, and looks like around the outside through the carousel. Venturini thought about it, thought better of it.
Yeah, those marbles are there big time right now, so if you venture offline through the carousel, you're going to go for a big ride in a hurry.
As I read this, I don't believe this is for position, even in the overall running order. I think the TR3 car is down a lap if I'm looking at this correctly, but crucial here for Venturini to clear this car so we can go off and try and run down David Askew, the next car in line.
And look at Bill Sweetler. He's getting racy. As I said, there's no easy pickings out there. These AMs are the real deal. Someone like Bill Sweetler, a lot of GT3 experience. Hasn't been running on a consistent basis just lately, but even so, he's going to dig deep in that knowledge pool, and he's putting it to good work here. Despite being down a lap, he's going to give Venturini a tough time.
And he's won championships in major series, has experiences in all the big endurance races around the globe, so not going to be easy, no question about that. We do have a change of position. Fred Portad has lost second spot. Around goes Russell Ward, the leader in Pro, now runs second overall, and the target is acquired. That would be the Acura NSX piloted by Taylor Hagler just up the road. Not much between these two now, just about 3 seconds between first and second in the fight for the lead overall. Acura leading Mercedes, leading Porsche at the front of the field in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Russell Ward is on a charge, making his way around Fred Portad to grab the second spot just moments ago, and look at that, right out the windshield. He can see his quarry. Taylor Hagler leading overall, but not in the same class. It's worth noting this is a pro car trying to run down a Pro-Am car.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Both of them want the overall win, so certainly Taylor would love to get a second Pro-Am win of the weekend. She'd love to hang on to it, but I think Russell Ward has just got too much pace right now. He's got to be patient, though. No need to push and make a mistake here or risk the car. Still 34 minutes on the board. He's got plenty of time.
Here comes Ward, right in the tire tracks of Taylor Hagler. Where will he make his move? That Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo looming large and ominous in the rearview mirror. Takes a peek to the outside in 14. A late apex on quarter exit puts the power down, and now The long drag strip, 4,400 feet from turn 14 to turn 1 down Road America straightaway.
Yeah, it's a big stretch, but the Acura's certainly got a lot of power, so she should be able to hang on here despite Russell Ward getting a bit of a draft here. Does he push the envelope right now and try and dive down to the inside? I think there's better places, better opportunities for Russell here. He's got a lot of pace. He caught Taylor in a hurry right now, but obviously you want to pounce when the iron is hot, so to speak, and he dives down the inside there. This is turn 3. Russell Ward takes the lead for Wynwood.
Very opportunistic, gets that move made. Hagler still, though, leading in Pro-Am, and I think part of the reason that Russell felt like he needed to make that move now, right there, looming large in the background, Michael Dinan is starting to turn it on. He has come past Fred Pordad. So has Martin Fuentes. So TR3 now with Fuentes moving up another spot. They run 4th overall and 2nd in Pro-Am. And Dinan still has some designs on trying to win in the Pro class. If he's going to do that, he needs to get past Hagler and try and run Ward back down.
Yeah, watch for Martin Fuentes. He's currently 3rd in the Pro-Am. He's probably got enough pace to catch Fred Pordad and get past him. And then he's going to get the hammer down. In fact, he's by him, right?
Yes.
Yes, he's got by him here. So this is a...
excuse me.
Car. No, that's
that's a lap car, another white car. Pardon me there. Yes, that's the other AM class car. Conrad Grunwald driving for AF Corsa. What an opening stint he had. He ran in the top 5 overall yesterday for the duration of his time on the racetrack.
Yeah, there's a bit of a gap for Fuentes to catch Pordad, so my mistake there in terms of the 2 bright white cars. So that's the Ferrari, not the Lamborghini that Martin Fuentes is behind today. So up front, Russell Ward still pushing really hard. You can see the car twitching there, under braking for Canada corner. Taylor Hagler hanging tough, but Michael Dinan is chasing.
And you're exactly right. My mistake there as well. And it doesn't help that Martin Fuentes has run a Ferrari for years and years and years. It's hard to get that out of your head that he's driving a Lamborghini here this weekend and for the duration of the season, joining Giacomo Altoe, who has the fastest race lap still, set pretty early in the going, and that car currently runs in the 5th spot. But as you say, a little ways down the order. So Russell Ward continues to lead. The gap is now 2.3 seconds over Hagler, and looming large is the BMW M6 Michael Dinan, starting to make some headway in running down Hagler, and Taylor's co-driver is standing by with Amanda in the pits.
The car that they are concerned on is the Fred Pordad car, the other Pro-Am class that's also chasing down Taylor Hagler. When we got over here, Dakota, you're getting a high five from Taylor Hagler's dad. Other people have stopped by and gave you fist bumps. You started this race from the #1 position. Walk us through the drive you had today.
Yeah, it was a good start. The team went over the start procedures for me, so felt comfortable leading the race from pole position. From there, I knew Jan was going to try and take it to us in the first few laps, so I tried to put together some clean laps in the beginning, and then from there, kind of like yesterday, just tried to manage the gap, save the tires, hand it over to Taylor in a good position.
You said you were kind of concerned there on your own tire strategy at the end of the race there. Was there any recommendations that you would give over to your co-driver?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, for us right now, we're starting to burn fronts off before the rear, so I told Taylor to take care of the fronts right now. She's doing a fantastic job managing the gap, some great pace, so I think she knows what to do. We've got a healthy margin right now, but obviously it's a long race, so keep an eye on that, but I'm really confident in Taylor and the team right now.
Oh, it's no wonder Dakota Dickerson felt right at home out in front of the field. It might be a new sensation in a GT3 car, but this is the 2018 F4 U.S. champion, the 2019 F3 U.S. champion, 9 wins across those 2 seasons back in 2018 and 2019. Had a bit of a slower year last year. Didn't run as many races, but was part of the HPD GT3 Academy, and that's what set him up for this partial season run with Racer's Edge. They're the ones that run the car for that academy. They really liked what he did. Same for Taylor Hagler, same for Jacob Abel. And I'm so excited to see the 3 of them get to race all together at the tail end of the season as part of the Indianapolis 8-hour.
Yeah, that should be a great run for them. The longer race will certainly be a new experience for them as well. But Dakota Dickerson is the real deal. I mean, you talked about his single-seater career in the junior formula. Very impressive indeed. And that run he put together here this weekend with a pole position yesterday. And just to lead Jan Halen, who's one of the fastest drivers, even though he's silver-rated, certainly one of the fastest GT pilots in North America currently, that is really making a statement.
I think that will get a lot of team owners' attention up and down this paddock. That in the pole position run he put in qualifying yesterday. It was magnificent stuff. But now Taylor Hagler is the one in charge of that car. And while this is not a fight for class position, she'd dearly love to hang on, if at all possible, to second place in the overall running order. But Michael Dinan's got other ideas. He still wants to run down Russell Ward, who continues to lead overall by over 4 seconds now over these two.
Yeah, when we look at that Pro-Am lead, Hagler's last lap time is about half a second quicker than Fred Pordad, so she's actually gapping second position in class right now, so she's increasing her lead, even though Dinan is putting the pressure on.
So Pordad has a pretty healthy gap himself. He's fallen a bit adrift of what Taylor Hagler is able to do here, but has a nice chunk of a gap over Martin Fuentes. It's about 18 seconds between those two in the fight for second and third in Pro-Am. But up front, it's all Russell Ward and Windward Racing leading in Elkhart Lake.
Today's coverage is brought to you in partnership with Acura, Ferrari, and Lamborghini.
Just past the 2/3 mark in this race, 28 minutes remaining in the 90-minute contest. We're through the pit stop window, and now you can see this race unfold in front of us. And how about another shout out to the AF Corsa team and Conrad Grunwald, the driver. We saw his pace yesterday. He's backing that up once again, but the team, huge repair work to do after the big crash that ended the race effectively yesterday when JC Sada hit the wall in the King, turning that car around and running nice lap times here with Conrad behind the wheel. Here, though, is a fight for position. It's Giovanni Venturini. He's caught Martin Fuentes. This is a pro car on a Pro-Am car. Two like Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evos. Let's see what the Lamborghini factory driver can do with the very experienced gentleman driver.
Yeah, Martin is no easy pickings, but certainly Venturini gets the run here, slides it down to the inside. Martin doesn't want to fight him too hard. He'll recognize the big picture in terms of Lamborghini really want those pro points here today with the K-Pac squad.
Able to get that move done is Giovanni Venturini around Martin Fuentes. That moves Venturini into the top 5 overall in what has been a trying afternoon for the championship leading K-Pax Racing team as a whole. That is the second place car in the championship coming into the weekend with Venturini behind the wheel. The championship leaders have had a very difficult weekend. I think it's safe to say Andrea Caldarelli admired all the way back in 8th, not helped by the fact that he did have to serve a time penalty for contact in the first stint that occurred when Jordan Pepper was driving that number 3 car.
Yeah, and I certainly think that 6 squad could lose second place in the points here by the end of this weekend. Haven't had a great weekend, and certainly the Windward Racing team have, and Foley and Dinan have a good day today despite the penalty yesterday where they could have had a potential podium run as well there.
Well, Dinan appeared to be falling back a little bit off the back of Taylor Hagler, but he erased a lot of that deficit right there and now is closing in once again on the back of the Acura NSX GT3 Evo from Racers Edge Motorsports. Taylor Hagler holding down the second spot overall. Michael Dinan closing in that BMW M6 GT3 for Turner Motorsport. Russell Ward leads. That Mercedes that comes through the picture is the overall leader. Second place overall right here, Taylor Hagler. But Michael Dinan is right behind, running second in pro, but third overall, trying to get one more spot in the overall pecking order.
Look at Conrad Grunwald. He's catching these cars in front of him right now. So despite being a lap down, just a great display of the pace of that Ferrari here this weekend. As you said, he had a stunning run early in the race yesterday, and the disappointment at the end. They still got that AM class win despite the car having a heavy shunt during the final moments of the race. But just a great display, really their strongest one, as Dinan now slides it down on the inside. I think Taylor's going to give him that inside lane here. Doesn't want to fight it too much. Remember, this is not a battle for class position, just overall. So she does the smart thing right there.
Trying to go for back-to-back Pro-Am wins is Taylor Hagler. Won yesterday alongside Dakota Dickerson. First win on the season after a nice stretch of solid runs, podium finishes, things of that nature. But was looking for that breakthrough, and she and Dakota Dickerson and the whole Racers Edge team achieved that goal yesterday, and they're backing it up. They show it's no fluke.
Yeah, car's really hooked up there. You can see her able to hug that inside line there through the beginning of the carousel turn. She's got to make a decision now on Conrad Grunwald. What sort of pace does he have? Does he want to be looking in that rear view mirror and fighting that Ferrari, or does he just want to let him go and settle in and just try and consolidate that lead?
A couple of notes from Amanda in the pits. Number one, the AF Corsa car we see running is actually not the chassis that ran yesterday. It's the repaired chassis from their big crash that they had at Sonoma that they've been carrying around as a spare, and it is doing very well indeed. As we've mentioned, down the order somewhat, but still leading in AM and lapping with great pace thanks to Conrad Grunwald. The other thing to note is the number 19 DXDT car did get back out. Aaron Vogel is driving, but is now, looks like 9 laps down, 18 laps down to the leader. And at this point, some of that is doing some testing mileage probably, but also there's the chance to try to get to 75% of race distance in order to at least score some points, because if you don't reach that threshold, there will be no points on offer.
Yeah, that might be tough, though, because leader's going to do about 10 more laps, it looks like, and if she does 10 more laps, she's still going to be about the 50 to 60% mark, not 75. So I don't think the math is going to work out for her, but nonetheless, I think you're right. Get the car back out there. I believe they're one of the teams that are testing at Watkins Glen this week, so probably just want to make sure the car is ready to go and they can roll it off the truck and be sure the car is in good shape. It doesn't hurt to get the mileage, right? I mean, it's all about experience and that learning curve, so no point in just sitting still. You put all of this effort into being here this weekend. Give Erin these race condition laps.
Down to the pit lane we go once again. Robbie Foley is with Amanda Busick.
Well, there was a round of applause here at Turner Motorsport when Michael Dinan went around Taylor Hagler, and the pursuit of Russell Ward begins. It's roughly 8-second gap at the moment. Robert, when you look at the difference between the Mercedes and the BMW, where might you have the advantage?
I think on one lap pace we're quite strong, but today it's pretty hot. This track typically has a lot of tire drag, and with our long wheelbase, we tend to have the tire drop off slightly more. So I think you saw that late in the first stint where I had a comfortable gap, then had a case of traffic one time in the kink. I lost a second or two, and the Mercedes was right there. So they're quite strong in the long run. They have a good driver lineup. They're great competitors. So Michael got stuck with some of the Pro-Am cars for a moment, so we'll see what he has for the end of the race. But yeah, so far so good. Michael's doing a great job. He has all year, so looking good.
Race 1 Pro-Am leaders suddenly in strife, Calvin, and it looked like at least one of the right side wheels on this car from Racers Edge Motorsports was not rotating. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think it was the right front. So we talked about Conrad Grunwald getting close to her, so I'm not sure if there was potential contact. We're trying to see if we can find a replay on that, but either way, she is in trouble now and trying to crawl her way back to pit lane. So whether there was a suspension failure or whether there was contact with another car, we'll have to try and find out.
Oh, that's heartbreaking after such a good run. The pole-sitting car overall here today, thanks to Dakota Dickerson, and Taylor Hagler was having, well, she called yesterday's race the drive of her life. Hoping to have another one of those today, and I think she was. She was in the midst of a really solid drive. Not quite sure what went wrong, but you could see the frustration, shock, disappointment on the Racers Edge crew.
Just despair right now amongst that crew. They can't believe what they're looking at. Look like they're in total control of this class victory. She's off the road there. It's down in turn 8, I believe, before the carousel. So I'm not sure if there was contact with some traffic or not.
What I don't know is whether or not that was cause or effect, Calvin.
Yeah.
Maybe something went wrong and that's why she was off track.
Exactly.
Or maybe there was some contact made that led to her going off track. But whatever the case, the result is the same, and you just have to feel for the team, all the effort they put in, the strength they showed. And 20 minutes or so before this race comes to an end, officially, it looks like theirs is done.
That's a disappointment after what has been a fantastic weekend, fantastic race performance by the whole team. Certainly Dakota Dickerson, they're ready here. I think there's a bigger issue than just changing that wheel. So she's probably trying to relay the information, but something is broken in that right front corner, I believe.
Tough luck for the Pro-Am leaders at the time. That elevates Fred Pordad back to the front. Martin Fuentes and company from TR3, they're now 5th in the overall order, 2nd in class, and completing the Pro-Am podium at the moment would be David Askew right now, running 7th overall. It's been a nice quiet run for David after a great opening stint from Ryan Dial. He was worth the price of admission, as is usual, from old Razzle Dazzle at the start of the race.
Yeah, here you can see the floor is back underneath. I think that's why it's not turning. You can see the underbody there.
Anything you're seeing here help diagnose where the problem came from, the cause or effect question?
Not really. I don't see any hit, so I'd suspect that maybe something collapsed there on the right front suspension and caused it to go off the road. And then I think it's kind of pulled that plank from the front splitter maybe back underneath the front wheel so it won't turn any longer.
Well, it takes one of the fastest cars out of the race. It also means that Michael Dinan has no pressure behind. He had made the pass on Hagler a few moments before, but now runs by himself in the 2nd spot, some 10.5 seconds behind the race leader, Russell Ward, in the Windward Racing Mercedes. Coming into the final 18 minutes of this race, another change in position worth noting. Andrea Caldarelli has caught and passed Martin Fuentes to move into the top 5 overall, but still 4th in Pro-Am and 11 seconds behind the next, 4th in Pro and 11 seconds behind the next closest car in class, which is the sister car with Giovanni Venturini driving. They run 4th and 5th overall, 3rd and 4th in the Pro class. 6 from 3 for K-Pax Racing. Back to the front, Windward Racing seems to be the one team that consistently is right there, punching above its weight, you might say, or maybe they've established themselves in the GT3 landscape now to say that they're a team on par with just about any in GT3 racing.
Yeah, I think this is their new weight. They are heavyweights in this championship right now. They're the real deal. They're running consistently at the front, and it wouldn't be an exaggeration to be saying this could be going for their 4th consecutive victory. They won at VIR. They could have run the initial round there at VIR, round 1 there, because they had that pit stop snafu, and yesterday, bar the full course yellow, would certainly potentially have won yesterday. So they're consistently running at the sharp end and vying for victory every single race right now.
And every race in every series, it seems like. They're racing in Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup. By the way, we did have a Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe Sprint Cup doubleheader today at Brands Hatch, and a big congratulations to WRT, Charles Weerts and Dries Van Thor, clinching a 2nd consecutive GT World Challenge Europe Sprint Cup Championship today. Great work by them. A couple of thrilling races, one that had its result overturned in post-race tech, as happens from time to time with the ACA ASP, I think it would be, teammates Raffaele Marciello and Timur Boguslavski winning on the road, but handed a penalty for contact with the then leading Joda McLaren. That took them out of contention and put them in the wall rather hard. Anyway, all that to say, there's a lot going on in the GT3 racing world, and Windward is a team that seems to be in the thick of it, whether it's SRO Racing or GT Masters or the 24 Hours of Daytona, racing at the Nürburgring, or in DTM, where Philip Ellis is a race winner in that championship already this season at the Lausitz Ring for Windward Racing. Just a remarkable run of form for that team. It continues to expand fast in every championship it enters. They lead right now. Russell Ward behind the wheel. Michael Dinan giving chase in the Turner BMW. Final 15 minutes of racing action from Road America and what has been an action-packed weekend. There was some thought that perhaps weather would intervene here on Sunday, but that thankfully has not proven to be the case. It's a beautiful day for racing, a bit warm, but sunny skies, no real threat of precipitation here for the final quarter hour of racing. So take a look at the repaired number 19 car, Aaron Vogel, behind the wheel. Now to the teammate and team patriarch, David Askew, driving for DXDT, and right now runs in the final podium spot for the Pro-Am class.
Yeah, this will be a real shot in the arm. They haven't had the best of runs this year in terms of results. They've had pace on occasion, but certainly haven't been putting on the podium on a regular basis. So be great for Ryan Dial here. He returns to Road America, coming off a prototype victory here just a few weeks ago. So it's been a happy hunting ground for Ryan. He went over to Le Mans last weekend, but unfortunately one of his teammates had a big shunt in one of the qualifying sessions, so they saw no further action that week and didn't compete. So a lot of traveling, but not a lot of miles under his belt. So we look forward to this one, and hopefully David can just bring it home here.
Well, at the risk of putting the old jinx on something here, this is kind of the weekend that Askew and Dial have needed. Just a nice, quiet, solid run. Nothing terribly noteworthy. David does appear to have his hands full a bit. That car gave a noticeable twitch through turn 14. But if they can lock down a podium finish, I think they'd be awfully pleased.
Yeah, they had the disappointment at VIR, had an incident there, so they missed the opening round, and then DL came back and really put on a storming drive there at the beginning of that race. So the pace is there, and it's a big operation. They've moved their headquarters over to North Carolina from the Utah base they had before, so been a lot of movement logistically, expanding their team, running 3 cars in this championship, running the GT America cars as well as overseeing Kevin Boehm's TC entry this year as well. So they're an expanding operation, but they do it right. They have a lot of resources, and they're doing a lot of testing and giving their drivers the ultimate opportunity to succeed come the race weekend.
Finished 5th in class yesterday, did Askew and Dial, looking for their 2nd class podium of the season, and it's been a long wait. Should they get it done? That came all the way back in the first race of the season when they finished 2nd in Pro-Am at Sonoma. Looks like some lap traffic ahead of the race leader now. Frank Gannett driving the Ian Lacey racing car that Drew Stavely started. And is the Aston you see right there. And it's Frank leaving a little bit of room to the inside there for the race leader to come through.
What I am seeing is that Caldarelli is gradually catching, despite that 15-second hold during their pit stop. The 3 car is catching the 6 car. He's only about a second and a half back from him.
Now to keep an eye on that fight as it develops for 4th and 5th overall and 3rd and 4th in the pro class. But Russell Ward firmly in control.
Today's coverage is brought to you in partnership with Optima, Motul, and Skip Barber.
One question I have for you, Calvin, mentioning that battle between the 2 K-Pax cars and the advantage right now swinging in favor of the 3 car. That is the championship leader. Any chance we see the order swapped around just to better increase their odds of bringing home the title, as they've been the dominant of the 2 cars in that pairing thus far this season?
Yeah, they're not as tight as I thought they were. It must have been my mistake looking at timing and scoring there. But yeah, it's certainly a legit question. They run line astern, admittedly, as a slightly bigger gap than the one I thought they had between them. But you know, it's not game over for the 6 car, so I think they'd be reluctant to give it up at this time. So I think it'd be a tough call to make. Venturini slowed down enough for Caldarelli to get around him, but certainly Caldarelli, in terms of his pace, I don't believe that Jordan Pepper had run much better than a high 9. And Caldarelli on fresh rubber when he first got behind the wheel ran a 2:08.7, which is only 4/10 off the fastest lap of this race. So we talk about them struggling. 4/10 off is not that much around a 4-mile circuit. So maybe a question of what could have been here today.
Yeah, that's very true. And it sends the K-Pax team back to the drawing board a little bit, but they've got a big test planned before the next round at Watkins Glen. Then it's the trip to Sebring, and everyone basically will be working from a brand new notebook as far as that event is concerned, because it's been a long, long time since SRO America, or in its previous guys, Pirelli World Challenge, raced down there at the airport circuit in Florida.
Yeah, but some of these teams, Ryan, as you well know, has had a lot of experience there in other disciplines. So guys like Wright Motorsport, Turner Motorsport, certainly Flying Lizard and K-Pax collectively have had a ton of races there. Maybe Wynn would be a bit on the back foot in terms of not having as much track time there as some of the other marks that they're competing against, but nonetheless, it's a transition over to these tires on the circuit, and it's a rough one. It's renowned for its bumps at Sebring, so we go from the relatively smooth run here to the very smooth run at Watkins Glen, and then the rough and tumble of Sebring International Raceway.
Russell Ward continually lapping in the low 2:11s, just solid lap after solid lap. The lead is growing. 15.5 seconds now over Michael Dinan at the front of this field. Race 2 of the weekend. Inside the final 10 minutes at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, Russell Ward took over from Phillip Ellis and drove to the point. He has been unstoppable since then. Remarkable consistency from the young Texan, son of the team owner, who he's driven with in the past, and having a ball at the moment, leading this field of GT3 machinery around Road America. David Askew right here in the DXDT racing car carrying the CrowdStrike colors. Unfortunately, no George Kurtz and Colin Brown here this weekend. They were here on Friday, but big crash for George Kurtz, sent them home early for the weekend. But as David Askew continues to lap here in podium contention, let's hear from his teammate and coach, Ryan Dial.
Well, the team finished 5th here yesterday, and their last podium finish was the first race of the season in Sonoma. Ryan, we were talking about how much your team might really need this right now. Is this a great time to find this performance in this team for you?
Yeah, it seems like David and I have had a little bit of a slump, and it's been a tough weekend for us, to be honest. We were on pole here last year, and then we have come back here, and we've just struggled. So difficult weekend, but hopefully this is a good result to end on. Guys at DXDT, we were here pretty late last night, again early this morning to try and improve the car, and clearly we did that. So a little bit more work to do. We have a test coming up this week, and we'll try and make her faster for the next one.
Said he might miss his flight home, and he's trying to get home for his wife's birthday.
Yeah, it's my wife's birthday tomorrow, so I got to go home for that.
Best of luck with your travels, Ryan, but let's focus here for the next 7.5 minutes on securing that second podium of the season. What a great character he is. Here we have a change, not for position. That was a lap car, the Jason Harward-driven Zalu's car that had the issues right off the bat, Cal. They had to come to the pit lane before we even took the green, so they've been on the back foot ever since, currently running in 12th overall, 6th in Pro-Am, but we are seeing Giovanni Venturini here starting to close in on Fred Pordan. That would be for 3rd overall, albeit not a class battle.
No, he's run really consistent lap times here, and not quite the pace of some of the other cars out here today, but certainly Venturini's having a good stint. Caldarelli, I mentioned, I thought he was a little bit closer to his teammate than he actually was. It might have been a blip on timing and scoring or my mistake, but either way, he's got a good margin over his teammate. I don't think there's going to be any team orders that we discussed earlier on in terms of them making him give it up as he slides down the inside of Fred Pordad. And you know that Wright Motorsport will have been on the radio too, Fred, just saying, let him go. We need to fight this. Fuentes is the guy we have to focus on. And he's a good margin behind us, about 20 seconds, 30 seconds back.
Exactly right. Fred Pordan, as much as the overall podium would be nice, doesn't pay any extra. There's no prize that comes with that, no extra points or anything. So when an out-of-class car comes through and catches you at a quick rate of speed, Fred Pordan doing the right thing, just moving out wide, opening up the preferred line. Venturini needs no second invitation. He dives up the inside and moves into the top 3 overall. I am seeing Russell Ward in the pits on my timing and scoring, and if the pictures back it up, this is the overall race leader pitting from the lead.
My goodness, Dinan flies through to grab that lead. Some kind of technical issue you'd have to assume here for Russell Ward this late in the going. Don't see any smoke or anything. There's no way he could be out of fuel, is there?
Oh, total heartbreak. They do plug in the air jacks. Is that the fueler behind?
Yes.
He might be onto something. Maybe an error or a problem, I should say, with the equipment.
You can see Russell just shaking his head inside the cockpit.
Oh, boy, that is painful. We'll see how much it costs him. We know Dinan has come through to take the lead. How close is Venturini? How close is Caldarelli?
Wow, what a shocker in the late going. Totally under control. Love the urgency from Russell Ward when he got up on the wheel in this stint. just went on the attack immediately. Just tried to stretch that margin to a comfortable number, which he had done. So now Michael Dinan back up front. He's used to being in this position in terms of leading races like he did so often last year, Ryan.
17 race wins across 2 GT4 series with Sprint and Sprint X 1 year ago, but has not tasted victory in GT3 equipment yet. 3 make that 4 podiums on the season coming into this weekend, but seeking that first win. Here is Russell Ward after the pit stop. Did he lose second spot? He did, yes.
I think both the 3 and the 9 were ahead of him.
I think you're right, because that looks like Fuentes there in 6th overall. He's running behind Caldarelli, so boy, that does drop the windward car to the back of the pro field. And just like that, on a day in which K-Pax Racing has been scratching its head looking for speed, they might be set for a double podium.
That's hard to believe. I believe that's Bryce Ward, Russell's dad, who races himself quite frequently, and they just can't believe the numbers. I'm not sure if it's a fuel pickup issue where they can't get the last few liters out of the tank, or whether they just didn't top him up enough during that pit stop. So some miscalculation, but this is a tough one to take. Just really had everything in order and under control.
Well, you said it earlier there. This is a team that can point at now 3 races and say, we could have had that. There was the first race at VIR where a little snafu in the pit lane cost them a win. They did win the next one. Yesterday, through no fault of their own, yellow came out as they were working their way through lap traffic. The lap car, in my opinion, fought a little bit too hard, and that resulted in a crash for that AF Corsa car in the kink. And that broke off the fight for the lead, so they didn't have a chance to try their luck yesterday. And now today, let's get an update on what happened. Amanda.
Well, Cal was right on. The car did run out of fuel, and after that car came in, Philip Ellis had his head in his hands. From that moment on, he just left here from pit lane. But to add insult to injury, guys, Turner and Windward are pitted right next to each other. They had to hear the round of applause as Dinan took over the lead of this race.
That's a stab in the gut, isn't it?
Oh, that is salt in the wound, certainly. But, you know, all respect to both teams. I'm sure Turner wasn't doing it. They're just so pumped up.
Of course.
They've been close to a victory this year, and finally it looks like they might break through and get their first win.
Yeah, they were runners-up in class, at least, at VIR race number 1. And a couple of third-place finishes as well. Race Vision, powered by AWS, giving us some information about top speed. And consistently, yes, it's the BMW, but again, for the second straight day, the Acura, very stout as well in a straight line.
Yeah, and we saw that displayed in the early going here today by Dakota Dickerson, and you're going to hit that top speed about 3 times. It's pretty much equal within a mile an hour in terms of the 3 long stretches of flat-out running here at Road America, but pretty impressive stuff.
Very impressive as well for the combination of Robbie Foley and Michael Dinan. They just kept their nose clean. And at least to this point, with 90 seconds left, they've avoided that crucial mistake. And now it comes down to one final 4-mile tour of America's Dairyland, the National Park of Speed, Road America.
Well, this will be a fun lap for Michael Dinan. Despite the pressure of leading this race, his nearest pursuer is some 7 seconds back right now, and that is Venturini. So he's got everything very much in control. Just hit his mark, stay focused. And there is Venturini, so he hasn't given up. It's been a nice, strong run here, taking over the reins from Corey Lewis. Hasn't been the smoothest of weekends for this squad. Braking issues in qualifying for Corey Lewis. And them starting from the 10th overall grid position here today.
Has the gap down to 7 seconds, so that's at least keeping Michael Dinan honest. But it would take one of those miracles we heard Andrea Caldarelli talking about in his interview with Amanda earlier, to make his way to the front. But it's been a strange weekend with any number of strange things that have occurred, so we're not going to call this race over until we see this car cross the start-finish line through Hurry Downs for the final time. Turner Motorsport out in front.
There's Will Turner, screen right, Robbie Foley in the middle, Jay O'Connell, who's come over and started to engineer this squad, and he has so much experience with this M6 chassis. Worked with Team RLL, Bobby Rahal's team, for a number of years, and worked with Multimatic. right now on a consultancy basis as well. So a lot of experienced heads right there.
Robbie Foley, who started the race in this car, has extensive experience racing for Turner in both GT3 and GT4 and other championships. So when his young charge, Michael Dinan, who won all those races last year in GT4, came to him and said, I want to go GT3 racing, Robbie Foley knew just where to point him. It's taken a little bit, but this team has started to find the speed and consistency. And on a day when many of the front runners faltered, Turner did not. Up the hill for the final time, Michael Dinan behind the wheel. It is taco time for Turner. Michael Dinan, Robbie Foley win at Road America.
Great job, Michael Dinan. There's Will Turner heading over to the pit wall to give him the big thumbs up. Venturini not too far behind. And here comes Fred Pordad. Great run for them as well.
Well, they do what they do best. Just put together a nice, clean run. Might not have had the fastest car in Pro-Am, but they don't make mistakes. Jan Halen had a strong opening stint. He challenged for the overall lead from time to time, then settled back in nice and comfortably. Turned it over to Fred Pordad, and Fred did what he does best and put in consistent lap after consistent lap. Good enough to clinch the victory in the Pro-Am ranks. That'll be good for the championship hunt there. And the winner in the Am class, AF Corsa, with the spare chassis pressed into service, sweeping the weekend, holding off the TR3 duo, who come home in second in Am, I should say, here at Road America. There is the man of the hour, the team of the hour, Michael Dinan, the youngster behind the wheel. First GT3 victory in SRO America competition for Michael Dinan. And he's taken a nice, slow victory lap, Calvin. You always savor the first one.
Yeah, soak it up, because that was a nice run for those guys here today. I don't think they had the pace to do anything about Russell Ward in the Woodward Racing number 33 Mercedes AMG, but you got to be there to take advantage if one of your competitors has a problem. And here comes Russell. He's going to be super, super frustrated. He drove a great race.
He did. So did Philip Ellis before him. Excellent opening stint. Great pit work as well. It was the pit work that put them ahead of this car, the eventual winner. Everything was shaping up to be exactly as Windward would like it, and whether it was a miscommunication or a miscalculation or a problem with the equipment, not enough fuel got in the tank one way or the other, and it cost them dearly with the unscheduled pit stop in the final minutes.
Yeah, that was a good, solid run. I mean, I think Philip Ellis's in-lap was also an important factor in that turnaround on the pit stop exchange as well. So they did everything right, other than we'll figure out, I'm sure they may know already what went wrong here in terms of whether they didn't get fuel on board or enough fuel on board during the pit stop, or whether they have a pickup issue here late in the going.
Whatever the case may be, they'll go back to the drawing board, try and learn from this one so they cannot suffer the same fate later.
Maybe the Turner car ran out of gas across the line. I know Michael Dinan slowed down dramatically, but you certainly burn a lot of fuel here. You're flat out for so long. I'm not sure if everyone with the kind of green flag running that we had here today got caught out by it a little bit.
Pretty good return to the championship for this man, Martin Fuentes, who is a former champion in a couple of different classes with this TR3 team. It was under a slightly different name at the time, but same team led by Gregory Romanelli behind him. Got the chance to get plugged in alongside Giacomo Altoe and comes away with a class podium in the second race of the weekend. Second place car, but the top car as far as the fastest lap of the race is concerned. CrowdStrike fastest lap came early, and it went to Giacomo Altoe, who teamed with Martin Fuentes to take home second place